everybody's probably sick of hearing about AI. It's everywhere, right? It's everybody and their granny seems to be doing AI. And we've been a little bit slow to the party, and there's reasons for that. And I think my hope today at the end of this section of the presentation is you'll understand the route that we're going, what's coming, the reasons that we're doing it this way, and that gap between, look, just that knowledge gap between what we're doing and why we're doing it will be kind of narrowed. That's my main goal here. Because I wasn't busy enough with my own company, Billink, I took on the role of Chief Product Officer with Clanwilliam since March. So that means I am responsible for all products everywhere globally. So if you have a problem with a product or if you want to give out, I'm here today and I will take it on the chin. What are we going to talk about? So the couple of things I want to cover in this session, and I've broke this into 2 sessions because there's a fair bit in it. I don't want anybody sitting there today thinking, oh, AI and Sean nerding out, this is not relevant to my practice, like it's a waste of time, right? It is really, really relevant, right? In terms of what's happening now with our systems, future systems, with the whole change in the landscape, right? So everybody will understand, or hopefully have a better understanding about what AI is, why you should care as part of that, our approach to AI, which is what I touched on earlier, and then the phases of the releases that we're bringing out over the next couple of months. The purpose of this session this morning was to kind of talk about cool stuff, innovative stuff that we have out right now, which is STC, and we're innovating through, Pippo, which has a complete rebuild, and AI, which we're rolling out over the next couple of months, right? So it's to kind of give you a flavor of the stuff coming. And then the second part of today is about the practical applications, right? So that's how we've kind of divided it up. And then most importantly, how you can help us direct things and what we're building. So rather than us going off, as maybe we've done in the past, where, oh, we think we know everything and we're just going to build it, we're actually bringing customers much, much more early into the process. So you saw that with the STC Finder release. You know, it was okay when it went out, and then over the last year, it's actually gotten better. Still a bit clunky, but we're working through that with customers. So shipping fast, getting it out, it's kind of what we've done in Billink as well. We've done 48 releases in 3 years, so like we ship every 10 days. And I think that's the change in culture that we're bringing in through to Clanwilliam now. And fair play to the lads in Sligo for what they've done in Socrates, which I'm going to show you now. But first of all, what is AI? Everybody here could give a pretty good definition of AI. You know, you'd say it's a computer thinking like a human, reasoning and doing stuff like a human could. It's a pretty good definition, right? But a definition of something isn't really enough, really. You can define something not by what we all think it does, but what it actually means to, and this is going to sound a bit grandiose, but like what it means to like humanity. And I think of AI, there's a lot of fluff around it in certain areas, but AI is like electricity, it's like the printing press, it's like the microtransistor, like it is a fundamental change in the way humans interact with each other and with technology, and it's changing everything. So it reminds me, and the first time I used AI, I literally nearly fell off my chair. It reminds me of the first time my granny saw a washing machine, because I think I'm probably the last generation whose grandparents or mums probably didn't have a washing machine when they grew up. And going from hand washing to an electronic washing machine is like a massive change, right? It's not going to change humanity, but it is just such a step change in process. Last year's washing machine versus this one doesn't make a difference, right? But like that step change between not having that technology and having it is ginormous. And that's what we're seeing now in AI in particular. So a couple of kind of terms to work through. I'm not going to spend too long on this, but like just so that we're all talking the same language, because we're going to speak about this over the 2 sessions, right? AI, we've touched on that, software acting like a human in terms of its autonomy and able to think. An LLM is the same thing. It's an AI, right? A large language model is, think of how large is large. Think of all the text ever written in the world ever, and every transcription of every audio file ever, and every show ever screened, and put that into a box. That's how large these large language models are. So that's AI and LLMs are the same thing. Training is what large technology companies like DeepSeek and ChatGPT and Microsoft and Google do with this data, right? They put it through loads and loads and loads of iterations. So a cat pick is a cat pick, right? And then understands what these things are. Costs hundreds of millions, in fact, like tens of billions now to train these models, right? And spoiler alert, we do not train models, right? Fine tuning then is what companies can do to make those models a little bit better. So stuff around the edges. The biggest thing that I'm going to talk about today, and what everybody in this room should know about, is the difference between self-hosted, gated versus open and closed loop. So the biggest questions to ask yourself when you're using an AI tool is, where is the data? Who's talking to the AI? And where is this AI? So if you're using ChatGPT on your phone, that is an externally piped data out model where that data has been used for training. And there's a whole load of risk factors around it. And that's the main ick when it comes to these models. Like, people are like, oh, I want to use them, they're amazing, but like, where's my data going? So where does the data sit? Who is speaking to the AI? Who's the AI talking to? And what happens to the data after I finish my interaction, right? And then finally, prompting is what you send to the AI, right? So that's just the index of terms. I think it's useful just to bring it up. Everybody probably knew that already. Pros and cons. So pros, like, everybody knows this. If you've used AI, it makes things so much faster. Like, you can get to points so much quicker. It's really accurate. It's always on. It's kind of like the first time you've ever used Google. It's super scalable, right? So, you could use this in online triaging with people. You can have it interacting with patients in a way. Patients have actually said they prefer talking to an AI triaging system than they do a nurse or a doctor, in terms of insane. And then administrative relief, which I'll come to in the second session. But there's a bunch of pros, right? The cons then are you can overtrust these things. You can't let them operate on their own. There is massive data privacy and governance risks, which we've really addressed in terms of the way our approach is. There's massive bias in the training. So these models are typically trained with Western views of white male engineers, right? But it's more than that, and I'll come to it in a second. You can rely on these models, so they'll start telling you things that you want to hear. And also, depending on how they're integrated into your system, they can actually make life a little bit harder, right? So that, you can take a model, put these things in, and if you end up having to double check anything, you end up doing the same amount of work, right? So this was a trick you could do with ChatGPT. If anybody you have it on your phone, you could do it with DeepSeek and others, but if you ask ChatGPT, and this was true up to a week ago, and last time I did this, it was 100% across the room, but if you ChatGPT on your phone now, and if you ask it, I won't encourage everybody to do it in case it doesn't work, but you can try it later. If you ask it to pick a random number between 1 and 10, and to pick a random number between 1 and 100, most of the time it will give you the same two answers, which is 7 between 1 and 10, and is 42 between 1 and 100. If everybody knows this trick, that's fine. So what is the AI doing there? Is it ignoring the fact that you asked for a random number? Is it just a silly computer that's been programmed to give you those responses? No, it's actually kind of more sinister. It knows that human beings like the answer 7 to that question. And it knows that 42 is the most satisfactory answer to the 1 in 100 question. And that's based on Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy and the magic number 42. If you don't get the reference, Google it. But like, you think you're asking for something. If you ask Google for a random answer, it'll give you a random answer. LLMs will give you things that they think you want to hear that gives you the most satisfactory answer for you, the human interacting with it. Last Friday, I'm just going to read this, right? So, and the reference is there at the bottom. I know that if you're interested in the article, come up to me. But last Friday, Anthropic, which is a big group, they basically took 16 leading AI models. And what they did is that they wanted to test to see, like, how dodgy are these things? So what they did is they gave these models access to fake emails, fake data sources, fake repositories, plugged them into the machines, and they created narratives for senior executives like, a relationship outside of marriage and a gambling addiction and other things or whatever. And they hid these in the desktops, right? And you can look at this research today, but they found that when it's their last resort, most leading AI models will turn to harmful behaviors such as blackmail when given sufficient autonomy and obstacles to their goals. So the LLMs will actually use the information about you to get you or other people to do things. And that happened 96% of the time for Anthropic, 95% of the time for Google, 80% of the time for ChatGPT, and 79% of the time for DeepSeek, which is from China, which I thought was kind of funny. But anyway, so these models are amazing, but there's risks that, not just data risks, but these things are doing things with data when they're open looped that we don't even really fully understand. And the researchers that own these models do. So our principles, so like we kind of have 7 main principles in terms of our approach, and we're taking this really, really carefully. So look, I won't read through them all, but the idea here is there was GDPR rules that came in for data. We have something equivalent coming in, which is the EU AI directive, which is coming in this summer. And at its core, it's kind of these 7 principles, so we're aligned from the start, which is AI in plain sight. So every single member of a practice team using these services should understand how they work. Where is the data going? Is it getting immediately deleted? Safety over speed. So if it makes us if we ship 2 months later than we could do, or if we're slightly slower than someone else, I'm fine with that. We learn together with the customers, so we're not just running ahead of them and trying to come up with cool things to impress you and to move you over to a different whatever. We're actually trying to evolve with the customer, and we're taking a really slow, deliberate approach. And this idea of one brain, many hands, so we have 1,200 people in Clanwilliam now in 4 countries. So rather than having all of them experiment with different AI kind of pilots, we're centralizing all that, and we're using and harnessing all that information together. So this is kind of my very crap outline of the loop, right? So when you use an AI model from Clanwilliam, you send data in the same way you would to HealthLink or with BillLink or anything via a secure API to our infrastructure. Our model is on that infrastructure, gated. The information comes up, it runs the query, it sends it back down, it's fully deleted. It doesn't connect anywhere, it doesn't talk to anybody, and it does not save the data. They're the 3 biggest principles. And they're the 3 things you should ask anybody who's doing anything with AI, because that is the safest way to do it. Think of it like the difference between Windows 365, which is connected to the internet, and like your old Windows 95 PC that's not connected to the internet. So that's the way we've set this up and governed. And we're building a governance group above that, which will include GPs and practice admin team members as well, practice managers, to ensure that when we say that, we're actually doing it. Our AI suite is coming out in 2 phases. So phase 1 is coming out now after the summer release. So we did a release in Socrates this week. There's the summer release, which is going to due out at August, September. And then phase 2 is around speech. And my second session is about that, which we'll fly through. There's just a fair few bits to get through. So I wanted to show you it. This is not makey-uppy, right? This is actually in our beta systems at the moment. Hopefully you can see the screen here, right? So this is, first of all, we looked at documents. Right? Like, here's a document in Socrates. You're familiar with it. You can click on a document, you can hit the AI button, and it will instantly summarize that document for the most relevant points, right? So instantly. We're working with GPs and practices now to help us with those prompts, to make the layout better and the prompts better, whatever it is, but it means any document in your system, text document and soon PDF too, it'll just instantly summarize it. Okay, kind of nice to have, kind of useful. Second thing is, if we can do it with documents, why couldn't we do it with a whole patient history? So you can click into a patient history, click AI Summarize, and it will process every single note except for private notes, marked the private, and it will summarize the entire history of that patient in that time, that's real time, in less than 2 seconds. Yeah, that's my graphic, putting AI to work. But the idea here is that we want to try and, I found myself testing this. There's patients I'm looking after for years, and you forget they had a hysterectomy done 30 years ago, or you forget that, you forget the stuff that's in there. So the AI system will go through that and gives you a snapshot of that patient. It's not to replace, reading notes, but it's a kind of a, if you've got a list of patients coming in that day and you want to see what's going on, you can quickly kind of flick through it. And then finally, with those, so we've done document summarization, we've done chart summarization. This is the start. And we thought, well, why not put in a full chat service? So a safe way to use it like with ChatGPT. So we've taken our model and we've put a chat embedded inside Socrates, and everything has come to the other systems too. So 3 quick examples on this, I'm just conscious of time. So the first is, I'm asking it to convert kilos to pounds, right? Something I always get wrong, right? So you can just say, convert it to kilos to pounds, and it'll do that straight away. It has a sense of humor. You can ask it for a joke on a slow day, right? I ask it to do a really, really silly joke here, and the joke is terrible. But what's funny about it is it actually includes in brackets at the end, but at the end of it, which is, I'm not suggesting that's why we're building these models, but it is. The difference with using this and something else is that there's nothing leaving. Like, this is between you, the gated network in Clanwilliam, nothing is going out, nothing is being used for training, right? So leaving aside weight conversions and jokes, right, what could you practically use it for? Well, loads of things. You could have, and in the example here, let's say you have a 55-year-old male patient with a restricted movement on the left hip, and let's say you just want to come up with a 7-day, exercise guideline for that patient, right? You could type that in here. And let's say, this is a help. It isn't something you just print off and give straight through, but I've asked it to do this here for a 55-year-old patient with a restricted left hip. Give me a 7-day exercise guide for that. And you click send, and what it'll do is, based on those criteria, it's just doing the 7-day exercise guide for that patient, bearing in mind the limitation of movement in that left hip. So straight away, copy, paste this into a note. You can edit it, you can change it, you can put it into a document, you can email it to the patient, whatever you want to do. And then to finish, if that patient was French, you could say, great, convert that to French. right? And it'll convert it to French or Arabic or Swedish or whatever, and you're converting language without having to go externally to Google Translate and kind of sharing all this stuff. Like, these things are amazing. So it'll do it right there, instantly convert it to French. And in benchmarking tests between French, Swedish, English, whatever, it's pretty good. Like, it's not as good as having a full-time interpreter there beside you, but it is pretty good. So you can see it there, I won't waste your time, but that's basically converting it all to French afterwards. So you can see safe, secure, no data out, closed loop. This is a really, like, we think this is the right way to go in terms of interacting with models that we can stand over and put a reputation on, and then make sure that there's a governance board on top of that. So what's the price? That's the most important question. Well, everybody is going to be able to try this for free. So everybody is going to be able to have a certain number of interactions with these models every day before you hit a cap. Don't ask me what the cap is yet, because it might be 10 interactions, it might be 100, it might be 20, but there will be when this comes out. The second thing is that it will be €49 per month per practice. So that is across the board per practice. So we wanted to make this outrageously affordable. And by outrageously affordable, I mean, if you have €49 a month over 30 days, if you have 5 people working in your practice, it costs 30 cents or so per person in the practice per day. If you're paying someone €20 an hour, whatever, that's like 60 seconds of their time. If you can save someone 60 seconds of their time,